Hi there, my name is Caitlin Bandy and this is my channel Bandy's Books, and today I am here to do my July 2024 Aardvark book predictions. So I have 14 books across a wide variety of genres that I think might be good selections for Aardvark. I'm still nailing down my Aardvark predictions, and honestly, with the way that Aardvark has been kind of switching up the types of books they're featuring lately, I'm not sure that I have quite a pulse on them yet. But here's my best guesses, and hopefully you'll find some books that are interesting to you. We're gonna start with the historical fiction genre. I have 3 selections today. My first selection is Nicked by M.T. Anderson. This currently has a 4.05 and 55 ratings on Goodreads so far. The year is 1807 and a pox is sweeping through the Italian port city of Bari. When a lowly monk is visited by Saint Nicholas in his dreams, he interprets the vision as a call to action. But his superiors have different plans for the tender-hearted brother Nicephorus. Enter Tiyun, a charismatic treasure hunter renowned for liberating holy artifacts from their tombs. The 700-year-old bones of brother Nicholas rest in the distant lands of Myra. Tiyun explains that they are rumored to weep a mysterious liquid that can heal the sick. For the humble price of a small fortune, Tiyun will steal the bones and deliver them to Bari. This will cure the plague and restore the former glory to Bari, and Nicephorus the dreamer will be his guide. I've selected this book for Aardvark Book Club because this is Anderson's adult fiction debut, and this book sounds like it is right up their alley. This isn't a straightforward historical fiction. This has some fantasy or magical realism elements. I love this idea of these weeping bones and a heist to try to cure a plague. This sounds like a lot of fun. Then I have Come to the Window by Howard Norman. This currently has a 3.78 and 23 ratings on Goodreads so far. It's 1918. The war in Europe grinds on and the Spanish flu seems to be an insatiable killing force. In Parsborough, a tiny village in Nova Scotia, Elizabeth Frame murders her husband hours after their wedding and inserts the revolver into the blowhole of a beached whale. Toby Havenshaw covers the hearing for the Halifax Daily Mail. He finds the people of the village delirious with grief and bewilderment. His diary traces the details of Elizabeth's story of adultery and murder. I've selected this book for Aardvark Book Club because Norman is a relatively popular author, and this is a nice mix of like horror and historical fiction. I think this has some creepy thriller-esque elements, but based in a historical setting, and I think that this could be a fun pick for Aardvark. Then we have The Ornithologist's Field Guide to Love by India Holton. This currently has a 4.50 and 84 ratings on Goodreads so far. Beth Pickering is on the verge of finally capturing the rare death whistler bird, but Professor Devon Lockley swoops in, capturing both the bird and her imagination like a villain, albeit a handsome and charming villain. As someone highly educated in the ruthless discipline of ornithology, Beth knows trouble when she sees it. For his part, Devon has never been more smitten than he is when he sets his eyes on Professor Beth Pickering. She's so pretty, so polite, so capable of bringing down a fiery, deadly bird with only her wits. In other words, an angel. Devon understands, however, that he must not get close to her because they're professional rivals. When a competition to become Birder of the Year is announced, Beth and Devon must team up to have any chance at winning. I've selected this book for Aardvark Book Club because Holton is a relatively popular author and she specializes in this historical romance, and this is a new series that she's starting and it sounds so interesting. I love this mix of ornithology and years past and this kind of enemies to lovers situation that seems apparent in this book. This sounds like it could be a really fun historical fiction pick. Next up, I have the horror, thriller, mystery genres, and I have 2 selections this month. First up, I have I Was a Teenage Slasher by Stephen Graham Jones. This currently has a 4.31 and 183 ratings on Goodreads so far. 1989, La Mesa, Texas. La Mesa is a small West Texas town driven by oil and cotton. It's a place where everyone knows everyone else's business. So it goes for Tully Driver, a good kid with more potential than application. He's 17 and about to be cursed to kill for revenge. I've selected this book because Stephen Graham Jones is a wildly popular author, and I feel like this is a pretty hyped up release. This sounds like it could be really good fun, and I feel like it kind of fits that typical Aardvark aesthetic. I would love to see them feature this book. My second selection for this genre is Smothermoss by Alisa Alering. This currently has a 3.89 and 83 ratings on Goodreads so far. 1980s Appalachia. Life isn't easy for Sheila. She endures relentless taunting and bullying at the hands of her classmates. She takes care of her great aunt, the garden, the home, and the rabbits. She forages for mushrooms in the forest while her mother works back-breaking shifts at the local asylum. But it's her peculiar little sister, Angie, who worries her the most. Angie is obsessed with nuclear war, Rambo, zombies, a Russian invasion of their community, and the ominous tarot-like cards that she creates that somehow speak to her. As if all that weren't enough, Sheila feels an invisible weight around her neck. When a pair of female hikers are brutally murdered on the Appalachian Trail, Sheila and Angie find themselves inexplicably drawn in to the hunt for the killer. I selected this book for Aardvark Book Club because this is a debut horror novel, and this sounds so interesting. This cover fits the Aardvark vibe, and I like that this is like a horror that's set in the Appalachian Mountains. It just seems like there are so many good and interesting things about this book. I think that this could be a strong pick for Aardvark. Now we're gonna jump into the romance genre. I have one selection in it this month. We're gonna be talking about The Game Changer by Lana Ferguson. This currently has a 3.97 and 277 ratings on Goodreads so far. When a very public breakup becomes a PR nightmare for Ian Chase's team, he hopes to focus on his game, but suddenly that seems less likely. With his career and team's image in jeopardy, Ian is surprised to find a solution in none other than Delilah Baker, his best friend and teammate's little sister. Delilah is known as the darling of baking on her local cable show, and being in the public eye is her bread and butter. But with her numbers dwindling and the producers turning up the heat, Delilah offers up the half-baked idea to collaborate with her brother's hockey team to encourage the local hockey fans of Boston to tune into her show. Delilah thinks it'll be a piece of cake, that is until the team sends Ian Chase, her brother's best friend and the subject of a decades-long crush that she's never gotten over. It looks like a win-win, gaining higher numbers for Delilah's show and casting Ian in a better light. With more than just their careers on thin ice, the lines between what's real and what's fake begin to blur. I've selected this book for Aardvark Book Club because Ferguson is a pretty popular romance author, and even more, hockey is a super popular subset of romance right now. And when looking at the different types of romance that Aardvark has been featuring, I noticed that they've been hitting some of those really popular tropes. So I wouldn't be surprised to see them suddenly pick up a hockey romance. Next up is the literary and contemporary fiction genres. I have 6 selections this month. First up, I have Catalina by Karla, Cornejo, Villavicencio. This currently has a 3.78 and 174 ratings on Goodreads so far. When Catalina is finally admitted to Harvard, it feels like a fulfillment of destiny. A miracle child escapes death in Latin America, moves to Queens to be raised by her undocumented grandparents, and then becomes one of the chosen. But nothing is simple for Catalina, least of all her complicated, contradictory, ruthless mind. Now a senior, she faces graduation into a world with no room for the undocumented. Her sense of doom intensifies her curiosity and dreams. She infiltrates the school's elite subculture, internships and literary journals, posh parties and secret societies, which she observes with the eye of an anthropologist and an interloper skepticism. She is both fascinated and repulsed. I've selected this book for Aardvark Book Club because this is Villavicencio's debut novel, and this sounds so interesting. It has a little bit of that dark academia vibes, being at Harvard. I love that there is that complex issue of being undocumented and what the future holds for someone coming out of Harvard without papers. I think that this could be a really interesting selection for Aardvark Book Club. Then I have Grown Women by Sarai Johnson. Erudite Evelyn, her cynical daughter Charlotte, and Charlotte's optimistic daughter Corinna see the world very differently. Though they love each other deeply, it's no wonder that their personalities often clash. But their conflicts go deeper than the run-of-the-mill disagreements. Here there is deep, dark resentment for past and present hurts. When Corinna gives birth to her own beautiful daughter Camille, this intelligent little girl offers the trio of mothers an opportunity to reconcile. They decide to work together to raise this child with something they were all missing in their own relationships: tenderness and empathy. Yet despite their best intentions, they can't agree on what that means. After Camille leaves her mother and grandmother in rural Tennessee for a more cosmopolitan life in Washington, D.C. with her great-grandmother, it's unclear whether this complex and self-contained little girl will thrive or be overrun by the fears and dreams of the 3 generations previous to her. As she grows into a gutsy young woman, Camille must decide for herself what happiness looks like. I've selected this book for Aardvark Book Club because this is Johnson's debut novel. It is a complex family drama. I love that we have all of these emotional conversations about the need for empathy, compassion, understanding, and eventually finding one's own way. I think this could be a really good pick for Aardvark. Then I have Let Me Liberate You by Andy Davis. This currently has has a 3.47 and 15 ratings on Goodreads so far. Dark, lanky, and bald, New York photographer Sabra Cumberbatch. Can't tell if she's highly talented or just highly Instagrammable. Up to here with the art critics and their gaseous praise, Sabra returns to Barbados, her childhood island home. She needs to water her roots and quell her self-doubt by doing something, anything that has some meaning. Welcoming her with bejeweled open arms is her Aunt Aggie. She's a fearsome high society attorney looking forward to showing off her talented American niece. When Sabra witnesses Aggie unleash her fury on the household staff over a minor mistake, Sabra ends up finding her cause. During an interview for a Puff piece about art, Sabra goes off script and takes a righteous stand against the ruling class, starting with her Aunt Aggie. Overnight, Sabra throws her entire family and an entire island into chaos. I've selected this book for Aardvark Book Club because this is Davis's fiction debut. And while I know that the numbers on Goodreads are a little bit low, I feel like that happens sometimes with really literary books. Sometimes people either really love them or really hate them. And when I was reading the reviews that are posted on this book so far, that kind of seems to be the case. A lot of people rated it 5 stars, a lot of people rated it 2 stars. That doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad book. It just means that it is controversial and possibly a little bit edgy. And those are things that I have seen with some of Aardvark's selections before, so this could be a really good fit for them. Then I have Whoever You Are by Olivia Gatwood. This currently has a 4.12 and 75 ratings on Goodreads so far. Only when Lana stepped into the house did she realize what she was missing. A life, an entire life. There's no way that Sebastian would have planned for that epiphany, because as soon as she had it, she felt the urge to run. On the Santa Cruz waterfront, every single house is as flawless as the people inside of it, except for Mitty and her elderly roommate Bethel. For 10 years, Mitty has found refuge in their secluded existence after a childhood full of trauma. Now they're the oddball pair in the dilapidated bungalow, the last vestiges of a town taken over by the tech elites. But their lives are about to be irrevocably disrupted when a new couple, Lana and Sebastian, move in next door. Because on the quiet outskirts of Silicon Valley, nothing is off limits, and what was once considered dystopia is now a reality. I've selected this book for Aardvark Book Club because this would be Gatwood's debut novel, and I love a book that verges on dystopia. I think that this is going to be a lot of fun seeing how these two couples and their different lifestyles kind of merge together. I also like that we have Lana, who is highly skeptical of this lifestyle, this house, that everything about it is making her want to run. I think that this could be a really fun pick for Aardvark Book Club. Next up, I have Anyone's Ghost by August Thompson. This currently has a 4.14 and 117 ratings on Goodreads so far. It took 3 car crashes to kill Jake. Theron David Alden is there for the first 2. The summer when they meet in rural New Hampshire when he's 15 and anxious, and Jake's 17 and a natural. Then 6 years later in New York City. Those 2 short, ecstatic, painful nights that changed their lives forever. The end of the dream and the longing of the dream and the dream itself all at once. Theron is not there for the 3rd crash, and yet their story contains so much joy and the simplicity of a stupid boyhood joke. I selected this book for Aardvark Book Club because this is Thompson's debut novel, and this seems like it could be one of those books that's a emotional gut punch. We have that coming of age, maybe a first love, and then the tragedy that strikes with a 3rd car accident. I feel like this could be a strong selection for Aardvark. After that, I have The Wedding People by Alison Espach. This currently has a 4.44 and 465 ratings on Goodreads so far. It's a beautiful day in Newport, Rhode Island when Phoebe Stone arrives at the Grand Cornwall Inn. She's wearing a green dress and gold heels, not a bag in sight, and completely alone. She's immediately mistaken by everyone in the lobby for one of the wedding people, but she's actually the only guest at the Cornwall who isn't here for the big event. Phoebe is here because she's dreamt of coming for years. She had hoped to shuck oysters and take sunset sails with her husband, but now she's here without him. Meanwhile, the bride has accounted for every single detail and disaster that might derail the weekend, except for, well, Phoebe, which makes it that much more surprising when the women can't stop confiding in each other. I selected this book for Aardvark Book Club because this is Espach's sophomore novel. Her first book received pretty good feedback, and this one is already getting really good reviews in its ARC round. I could see this being a pretty good pick for Aardvark Book Club. And finally, we're going to talk fantasy and science fiction. I have 2 picks for this genre. First up, I have Toward Eternity by Anton. This currently has a 3.89 and 56 ratings on Goodreads so far. In a near future world, a new technological advancement is eradicating cancer. The body's cells are replaced with nanites, robot or android cells that not only cure the affliction, but leave the person virtually immortal. At the same time, literary researcher Young Hoon teaches an AI how to understand poetry and creates a living, thinking sewing machine, which he names Panit. It means beloved and it honors his husband. When Dr. Biko, the holder of the nanotechnology patent, finds out about Panit, he transfers its consciousness into an android body, giving it freedom and life. As Young-hoon, Panit, and other nanohumans thrive and begin to replicate, their development will lead them to a crossroads and a choice with existential consequences. I've selected this book for Aardvark Book Club because Her is a very well-known, very well-respected, multilingual translator. He has translated a ton of books and now he is making his own debut. This book sounds really interesting. I love when novels delve into the complexity of technology and sentience and what makes someone human. I think that this book is going to talk about a lot of those types of topics. Sounds like it could be a good selection for Aardvark. And finally, we have This Great Hemisphere by Mateo Askaripour. This currently has a 3.96 and 27 ratings on Goodreads so far. A young woman, invisible by birth and relegated to a second-class citizenship, sets off on a mission to find her older brother. She had presumed him dead, but he is now the primary suspect in a high-profile political murder. I've selected this book for Aardvark Book Club because Askaripour is well known for his first novel, Black Buck, which was a satire of the financial market and received a pretty good feedback. I'm really curious to see what Askaripour's writing is like in the science fiction genre with this kind of thriller-esque sci-fi we have going on. There isn't a lot of detail about this book, but what I've seen in terms of reviews so far has looked pretty solid. With Askaripour's quirky writing style and sense of humor, I think that this could be a good fit for Aardvark. So that's the end of this video and all of my selections for Aardvark July 2024. I hope that you found this video interesting. If you did, hit the thumbs up, comment down below, and let me know what you think of my picks. Are there any books in this list that you think are like definite shoe-ins for Aardvark? Are there any that you're like, Caitlin, what are you picking here? Or are there any that I didn't list in this video that you think are likely to end up in Aardvark? And if you're not already subscribed to this channel, you know what to do. Hit the subscribe button down below as well as the notification bell so that you never miss a video, and that way we can see each other again soon. Thanks so much for joining. Bye.